When you first purchase Smart Manager, there's a variety of features that we can configure and customize to suit your company's individual needs. First things first, if you go into the settings, go to company setup, you get an overview of your company address and phone number, etc. Make sure they're all correct. You can add your company logo so that it appears on all of your handover and inspection reports that are sent out to customers. Click Browse, locate a JPEG or PNG file of your company logo, hit Open and hit Save, and that will now be on top of all of the reports that you send out using the software. The next thing to set up is depots. If you're operating out of multiple depots, you can set them up here, give it a name, address, email address, and a contact number. Hit Save. You can now assign sites under that depot and staff members under that depot to break up who's doing what and where. The next thing we can customize, if we go to settings, is our lists within the software. So throughout the apps and the Smart Manager console, there's a variety of drop-down lists for the users to choose from. For example, handover risks, loading limits, design types, methods of cladding, scaffold types, etc. And the defect list, which is what we're looking at here. So to take one of those lists, we take scaffold. You can see we've got a variety of common scaffold types that are included in the software when you buy it. You can reorganize them in order of importance. You can add new scaffold types, and you can delete ones that you don't use so that you can configure that list to be the most efficient layout possible. And that's the same for most of the drop-down lists in the software. The defect type list, which is for your detailed inspection report, this actually, as well as being a drop-down list in the software, which we can preview here, of defects for the inspector to choose from, it also forms the detailed inspection report list of what's been checked. So you can add defects, you can add defect groups, you can rearrange them, you can change the wording, give new titles, same as all the other lists, and basically configure how that's going to appear on your detailed inspection report and in the inspection app for the users. And finally, you've got handover settings. This is where we can configure additional details for the handover certificate and the boilerplate text that goes onto the handover certificate. So when the user completes the handover, you get the generic options: scaffold type, design type, cladding, tie type, etc. You can now add and configure your own additional data inputs for the users to complete. We've included a few common ones, so you can add dimensions, number of ties, whether the ties were tested, and those can be made mandatory so that the user has to complete them before we can submit the handover, and they can be turned on and off from the console here. Okay, so if we turn that on, hit Save, now whenever someone goes to complete a handover using the app, they're going to be forced to put in the height of the scaffold as well as the normal details. Okay, and you can also add your own options. You can give it any title that you desire, and you can choose whether it's free text, like a description, a yes or no, or a yes, no, or none applicable options as tick boxes, and whether or not it's mandatory or optional when completing the handover, and turn it on or off. Okay, when you're done, hit Save. Hit Save, and that will include that in your options. Okay, so what we'll do, if we turn on the DIMS here, when we log in and do a handover on the app, that will appear under the heading Additional Details. The handover text, you can configure the boilerplate text that appears on the certificates that are sent to the customer. You can use one description for all scaffolds, so you've got default descriptions that come with the software that cover working at height, TG20, TG419, so on. You can use a separate description for system scaffolds if you require. So you can see here we've got standard description for tube and fit, system design description for system scaffolds, inside boards and the regulations. And if we turn that off, it will just use the standard description for all scaffold types. Okay. You can preview how that's going to appear on your handover certificate, and you can also close that, edit the wording, the text to suit your needs, and personalize it for your company preferences. Okay, both changing the additional details here in the handover settings and the handover text will affect all handovers done across all sites. It doesn't retrospectively affect any handovers that have already been completed. It will only affect new handovers after you've saved the changes.